All right, big news in Boston and around the country. Big NBA news yesterday. Danny Ainge stepped down as president of the Celtics. Brad Stevens ascended to that office, and the head coaching job came open for the first time in 8 years. I'm looking at the odds right now, Turtle Boy and Cullinane, the odds for the next head coach. Jason Kidd is the favorite. Sam Cassell, Lloyd Pierce, Chauncey Billups. I would set I'm going to make it simple for some of these other names. Odds for a white guy getting the job, I'm going to place it at 1,000,000,000 to 1. What do you think, Turtle Boy? Would you agree?
Jason Kidd's pretty close to white.
Oh, no.
I
don't think so. I think it is amazing that we've reached this point where it could be, the greatest. I don't know who's the greatest. White Greg Popovich could be available, or a younger Greg Popovich, or the guy Quinn Snyder. And they would not.
Doesn't he coach the Jazz? Quinn Snyder?
Yes, I'm saying I'm giving you the hypothetical candidate, and if the hypothetical candidate were white, he would not be considered, even though Stevens is white, Ainge is white. The owner.
Why are we talking about race when we should be talking about gender? We should be talking about gender at this moment. Everybody on this show should be acting like
sexual orientation, Jerry.
This is we don't know.
It's Gay Pride Month.
That's a good point. I don't know if any of the candidates would qualify, but the white person that is highest on this odds, I don't even know. Becky Hammond. What is she, white or is she black? It doesn't matter. She's a woman. And what's the other?
White. She's white.
So the highest, the white person with the best chance of getting the job is a female, which obviously she's not going to get the job. I'm thinking this yesterday when I see Carol. What's Lawson?
Kara Lawson.
Kara Lawson.
Why can't you be like every other sports radio show and act like you know who the fuck Kara Lawson is? Because
the Duke.
Everybody else knows.
I know she's the Duke coach, but this is the point we've gotten in this current climate. The point of the level of wokeness is my friend Dan Shaughnessy wrote about this, and he mentioned seriously that the Celtics, if they really wanted to be bold, they could give the job to Kara Lawson, the first, and make her the first female head coach in the NBA. Scalabrine, I believe, he's the color guy on the annoying as hell, but he's the color guy on the TV broadcast and an analyst on the local station. He agrees it'd be a good and a bold choice to hire a woman to coach the Celtics. Now, is it? Have we got to the point where we're all supposed to nod in agreement here? I know that's not really your thing, Turtle Boy. But are we supposed to take this seriously and say, gee, would that be a good fit? Kara Lawson or Becky Hammond?
I thought you were kidding this whole time.
I'm not kidding. Shaughnessy, I got it in front of me. I got the Shaughnessy column in front of me. He literally writes, he lists a few of the candidates, Chauncey Billups, Kendrick Perkins. And then he says, if they want to think outside the box, they could consider Kara Lawson. Now, they're going to play along with this. If Wick Grousbeck, the owner, does a press conference, or even Brad Stevens, they'll say she's a terrific coach. She was here in the past. We'll take a good long look at her. But here's the thing, and Shaughnessy writes it. We know it's not just X's and O's. In fact, that's secondary. We know it's relating to these young guys, getting the most out of them, motivating them, not losing them. That's why a guy like Doc Rivers has lasted so long and had such a made so much money and had such a long, good run, because he can relate to guys. They respect them. Does anyone really think a woman, even a good college coach, could step in and gain the respect completely of a bunch of 21, 23-year-old guys and really, win, really contend for a title? Maybe someday, but I don't think we're at that point, and I don't think it's, Neanderthal thinking to think it's a little bit of a stretch right now to think the Celtics are going to hire a woman, and she's going to do better than Brad Stevens as head coach, because I don't know, she can relate to them.
Can she manage a game? Can she pump up a locker room? Like, what do you really need? What do you really need to be a NBA basketball coach?
I think young guys have to, respect you, and play hard for you, and trust you, believe in you, all that. That's the most important thing. I think anybody can do the X's and O's, and I think even a guy like like a guy like Popovich. He's an old white guy, but they respect him. They know what he's done. He's like the Belichick of the NBA. But
I didn't even know any of this was going to happen. Did you know that Brad Stevens was going to resign and Danny Ainge was going to quit if they lost the series?
No, I did not. I mean, I think there were rumors about Ainge. I think there were rumors about Ainge. He's had a heart attack. He's had a long run. It's been 18 years of him running the franchise, a good long run, won one title, won a lot of games, rebuilt nicely, made some great trades. I mean,
one of the greatest trades ever is trading for the third pick from the first.
Right,
one of the ballsiest things any GM's ever done.
And how's that pick look right now? I mean, it looks great. He's made some great trades. He had big balls. He did take some chances, and I think he had a good long run. Could have used another title. Was there pressure for him to step down? Do you think? Are they upset? It's a good question. Not that I know of. I mean, I just think, he was going to do it eventually anyway. It's amazing. You want to feel old, and there's lots of things that make you feel old, make me feel old these days. But the guys, my first thought are guys of Ainge's generation, like, Larry Bird, of course, your first thought, Kevin McHale, that generation of guys, they're too old. I mean, again, Popovich is an exception, but a guy from that era, the Bird, McHale, Ainge years, whoever else, Seasting, whoever else was on that team, it's being just, you would eliminate them because they're too old. It's got to be somebody younger. It's got to be one of these former players. And the favorites, Sam Cassell, Chauncey Billups, Jason Kidd, I think it's one of those guys. I think they pick one of those guys, and I'm not saying it's because of race. I'm just saying they're going to not just dismiss the white guys. They're just going to say these guys, this era, these guys, Kidd, Billups, they can relate better to the players. The players respect them. I think it'll be one of those guys, and then they don't have to worry about Stephen A. Smith blasting them, going off on them for whatever. I mean, have you seen this, Turtle Boy? Stephen A. walks off the set because he's so upset that, see if I got this right. I'm setting this up, Dave. He's so upset that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two guys he says are very woke, were not upset that Brad Stevens got the job when Ainge stepped down. Brad Stevens got the job. And
so he's mad that one white guy replaced another in some GM office. The
guy who works for the team, who they respect, they know, they like, and a guy had great success, a lot of success in college.
Let's not say he earned the ability to take on that role. What the hell has Brad Stevens done?
First of all, what the hell is how dumb is Brad Stevens for not taking that Indiana job?
Oh, really dumb.
I don't know. It's a good question. There must be something about it he doesn't like. I mean, when he
would be a king. He would be a king in Bloomington. A king.
But he's made in his 8 years here, I think he's made $30 million. The NBA is a pretty lucrative gig, and he's done a decent job. Again, no title, but now he's got an even better gig. I mean, you don't travel, you don't have to deal with the players every day. I don't know what you do. You run things in the front office, and you make millions. It's a pretty good gig. I'm sure he has his reasons that, Indiana maybe he didn't want to move back there. Maybe he didn't want to, go back to college, but whatever, he got elevated. And for that, Stephen A. was so upset that the players didn't complain that the team filled Ainge's job with another white guy. He was upset that the players weren't pissed. The players who know Stevens and maybe respect and like him and think this is a good move weren't pissed that the guy who just took Ainge's job is white.
Wait till they find out. Wait till Stephen A. finds out how they reacted to Kyrie Irving stepping on the logo, because they had the same reaction to that. They did nothing. In case you haven't noticed, like Jason Tatum and especially Tatum, but also Brown too, they don't have strong opinions on anything unless it's like, who's the latest black guy that got shot by the cops? That's the only thing they seem to care about.
Yeah, that is true.
Which, by the way, is why I really think Danny Ainge is gone. I don't, I think that it came out yesterday that the players were really irritated that some of his past interviews he's done, some local radio stuff, that basically like he's not like outspoken against woke culture, but he said some things that kind of come off that way. I don't know if you know him personally, Gerry. I don't know his politics per se, but he definitely said things that weren't in line with kind of the woke.
He played with McHale, so.
and that's the barometer now. Is he woke enough? Not is he smart enough, or does he work hard enough? Is he woke enough? And I watch this, and I'm telling you, I normally think Stephen A is pretty entertaining. He says some dumb stuff, but he's pretty entertaining. And you generally feel like the passion is real, especially when it comes to NBA and, NBA issue. He loves the NBA. Tell me, listen to this, watch this, Turtle Boy. Tell me if he's not pretending, if this is not, literally walking off because a 23-year-old and a 2-year-old player weren't upset that the coach is now the GM and the coach who became the GM is not black. It's
okay. And it wasn't just LeBron. It was Kawhi too. There's a plethora of guys. You got Sam Cassell. He's going to be a hell of a coach one day in the NBA if he gets that opportunity. Chauncey Billups. Everybody was talking about he had an opportunity to get an executive's position. And then suddenly it dwindles. But Steve Nash, who we love and respect, great dude, got a black agent, one of the great ones, Mr. Bill Duffy. Steve Nash never coached on any level. And not only does he get the job, he gets the job with the full support of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who, by the way, never insisted that a black candidate be interviewed and be put front and center so we'll know who that individual is. We got Brad Stevens here. It's Boston. Tatum's your star. Jaylen Brown's your star. We understand what role that they play, particularly Jaylen Brown, in social justice issues. We're supposed to be woke. We're supposed to understand that knee on George Floyd's neck wasn't just about violence and police brutality. It was also the figurative semblance that it provided, where you're feeling like constantly people have their knee on your neck. You know what? I'm going to walk away. I'll be right back because I'm scared I'm going to say something that might get me in trouble because I'm pissed. I'm pissed.
Yeah, Perk, you want to respond?
Hold me back. Hold me back, dog. Hold me back.
Perk's like, what? What? George Floyd's neck?
Yeah, as soon as he said that, I'm like,
he was already ramped up. He already basically said everything about race that he could have said. What could he have said that would have ended up like what? How much further could he have gone there?
They're going to hire a black coach. And you know what? It'll probably be a good qualified guy, and we all know Jason Kidd, Chauncey Billups.
Qualified. How many teams has Jason Kidd been fired from?
Well, whatever. They'll make the case that he's the best guy. And in this day and age, it's like with Steve Nash. He's thought that was racist and white privilege and all that. They just pick a guy that the players respect. The assistant can do the X's and O's. That's why it's probably going to be a former player and probably be a former really good player, not some scrub who, in the NFL, the football coach, it's not the most important thing. In fact, they're very rarely are good players who become good coaches. Most of the coaches didn't even play because they stint, like in the case of Bill Belichick or Sean McVay. These guys knew they weren't going to play and spent their life working hard to become coaches, and they're qualified. And you would never say some former player, great player that, like, I don't know, Lawrence Taylor or Ray Lewis would be as good at the job as Bill Belichick or Andy Reid. They just wouldn't. And you wouldn't say that about the NBA. A former player, being a player gains you the respect of young guys. That's the most important thing in the NBA. And the assistant, maybe you're a good X's and O guys. Maybe Nash is a good X's and O guys. He sits there like just staring into space a lot at the game. Just kind of.
Does it matter who the coach in the NBA is? Like, I did not know Steve Nash was the coach of the Brooklyn Nets until like a couple weeks ago. It's like but you knew they were going to be good because the stars go there.
That's right, exactly.
The players matter, not the coach.
And I know they were there before Nash, but that's another thing. If you get a guy that players all like and respect, a former star like a Nash or a Kidd, does that mean you can recruit? You can bring, or you can keep your stars because they want to play for the guy. And if you hire, a guy who's just, a real good grinder who's, been an assistant.
How have the Spurs and the Warriors been the last couple of years?
The Spurs,
they have the coaches, right? They have Popovich and Carr. Those are the coach. Yeah. How are they doing? They suck because
they're losing. They're losing
because they don't have the players. It's like that's what happens. You can't. The NBA, it's just about the players. Who cares for the coaches? He's just an accessory. I'll coach.
Yes, and they want the accessory to be a former player, and in this case, it'll be a former player, and it'll be woke. And I mean, he might be good. Maybe the players will love him and play hard for him. But I find it laughable that
she might be good.
I'm sorry that she might be good. I'm going to pull a
they.
I was thinking about pretending that I'm upset right now because I'm going to storm off the set. I got to go grab my phone and look up some things. But should I pretend like Stephen A. and say I'm so pissed? I'm so pissed. I'm going to walk away. You guys, Turtle Boy and Dave, could you talk for a minute? Because
go ahead.
Upset. I'm too upset.
Go ahead.
Carol Lawson, is that her name again?
Yes.
Carol Lawson has not had a chance. How much longer is she going to wait? Damn it. They need a coach without a penis. That's the most important thing.
No, I honestly
are you suggesting that all women have no penises? Is that what he's saying?
That's a
transphobic.
I don't agree. By the way, I know he's coming back. I don't agree with him. Like, to your point, I don't think the coach really matters that much in the NBA. Why can't a woman coach? Why can't she earn the respect of her team? Why can't that happen?
It's freaking weird.
Why?
It's weird.
Why are you just saying stop and it's weird? Why is that weird?
It's so weird. Like, you're a grown-ass man. You're going to be coached by a woman? Come on.
What's wrong with that? Well, come on. I would listen to. First of all, I
don't care how woke you are. I don't care how woke you are. Racial issues. There's going to be issues with that. Okay. Big 6'8" burly man is going to be coached by a woman. Come on, stop it.
You don't think the world's changed a little bit? You don't think the world's changed a little bit that Jason Tatum would listen to a woman if he knew what she was talking about, if she can manage a game, if she can?
Has Jason Tatum ever worn a pink pussy hat?
I don't know why Jerry decided to cut Jerry. Just go. We're rolling here.
Yeah, we're fine.
I was going to say something I was going to regret.
You said something transphobic and then you left.
Oh, that's a good point.
You said that they have to have a penis to coach.
No, I said that it's time they had a coach without a penis. That's
but you're assuming that penis assumes your gender. It doesn't. Penis has nothing to do with anything anymore.
Jerry, you honestly don't believe a woman can earn the respect of a locker room?
I think she absolutely could.
No,
but I think a guy. In fact, I think it has to be a fairly young, probably black player. It could be, Nash obviously qualifies a 2-time MVP who did something in the league, and guys like Tatum and Jaylen Brown have to respect him for that. They think anyone could come in here. They're, obviously, a college coach could come here and give you all the X's and O's and set up the defense and all that. And there's 1,000 guys who could do that. They need a guy who's been there, who's done that, who they look up to and respect and want to play for. That's the most important thing. And I think it's hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard to imagine a woman.
So you believe that the NBA just needs that? That's just like that. That's the prerequisite for the job, and that whether you like it or not, a woman doesn't qualify in that role. Not necessarily that she doesn't have the skill set or the ability to win a locker room. They need somebody who
she does. The second thing you said, the ability to win the locker room. I'm sorry. Call me a pig all you want. A woman is going to lose the locker room. It's going to happen.
And a guy might too, but I mean, they're just, again, I don't think you could have a 65-year-old guy. Chris Ford couldn't come in. He knows plenty about basketball. He played in the league and all that. He could not come in today. Again, I said Bird. I mean, my first thought was Bird because that's how I think. I think of Bird. Who would command more respect than Bird? Nobody.
I don't know. Like, what about something cool? Like one of those 6 guys, like, who's that guy, Bruce Bowen from the Spurs? I bet you he could coach, or Robert Horry, somebody cool like that hung around on a lot of championship teams, but was never the star, but was kind of like the brains of the operation. I feel like one of those guys could be a good coach.
ML Carr, you think he would work?
Is he a good player? I don't know.
I don't know. I think they, Brad Stevens' list is going to have 4 or 5 guys on it, and they're going to be young, and they're probably going to be black, and they're probably going to be former good, if not great players, and they will pay lip service for obvious reasons to the women, both the women who are on this odds list, but they're not going to hire them. And so I think, they'll interview them and they'll make a big deal out of it. It'll be kind of like, like the Rooney Rule. They wanted them to interview black guys, make sure they interview them, get their name out there, get their name in circulation. That was the step they were looking to take. Maybe it'll be one of those deals where they have to interview these 2 women but does anyone honestly think they're going to get the job? It'll be wild if they do. It'll be historic, and there'll be a lot of people watching, opening day next, whatever it is, October, and watching every move she makes. But there'll be unbelievable pressure on either of these women if they actually become head coaches. But I don't think this job at this time is the one that they're going to get. But we'll see. We will see. It was a little bit of a surprise. You're right, Turtle Boy. And I was wondering how the woke crowd, not necessarily Stephen A. Smith, but how the usual suspects, the Jamel Hills and Dan Lebertards, were going to handle this. And I started thinking, you can't really knock the Celtics because it's their own guy. They just promoted him, or I don't even know if you could call it a promotion. They just moved him into the front office. What? You were supposed to not do that because he's white?
Well, based on what you just said, I mean, Brad Stevens didn't play in the NBA, right?
No, that's okay.
Well, Commenter makes a good point, Jerry. Coach K is done after this year. Don't you think Brad Stevens would be the perfect Duke coach?
Well, there's like a dozen guys, like Tommy Amaker, and obviously we know it's this John Chire, who's his, whatever they call him now.
Tommy Amaker hasn't won at the college level like Brad Stevens has. Brad Stevens made back-to-back NCAA championships with garbage.
With Butler, right?
Yeah.
But, if they were going to interview people, sure, put them on the list. But as you said, if he's not interested in Indiana, maybe he's not interested in that life. That's a whole different.
You're saying he's not about that life? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I mean, has anyone asked him? I don't know. I don't know if he wants that life. I think the job he just took over for Danny Ainge is a great job. A great job. You don't have to talk to the media every day. You don't have to wear a mask.
You got your 2 stars.
A commenter makes a great point. You know who should be on the hiring committee, Jerry? Monica Cannon Grant.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, you know what? She'll have some thoughts on this hire. And I'm going to guess. I'm just going to predict. I got the odds, and the odds reflect this. The pick will satisfy her. She will not be upset. The pick will satisfy the Boston Globe. The pick will satisfy Stephen A. Smith and Jamel Hill and Max Kellerman. They will all be okay with the pick, and the typical qualifications will be secondary. And let's be honest, Stephen A. I think he's pretending here. Yeah. But he's making one thing clear: it's almost like an implied threat. You better make the pick better be woke because George Floyd. That was literally what he said. Because George Floyd, he was upset about Stevens getting the front office job because of what happened to George Floyd. Yeah. Do I have that right, Callahan?
Yep.
Whereas rational people are upset for him getting the front office job because he's proved nothing. He's not a good coach. So why do I just assume that he can build a team? He can't coach it. Why do I want him to build it?
Isn't it irrelevant almost how you can coach if you can recruit? I mean, what we don't know, is Steve Nash a good coach? I mean, the Nets.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote this yesterday.
I can do it.
I forget who it was. They said it's the most talented team in history. Most talented team in history. Obviously, you have 3, like MVPs, essentially. I mean, Kyrie hasn't won one, but Durant, you got guys who literally could score 35, 40 a night. You have, role players like Blake Griffin. You have a great, deep, talented, and I think clutch team. The Celtics had no chance against them. None. Zero. It was just, if Harden would, there was one point when the Nets built on their lead. It was game 4. They built on their lead, and the announcer says, I hate to break it to the Celtics, but they're doing this, and Harden and Durant are on the bench. They're building their lead, and off comes Harden and Durant off the bench to just blow them out. And it was too easy. It was a joke. The Celtics had no shot. Does it really matter if Steve Nash, puts X's and O's right to get? I mean, it doesn't. He just sits there, like they used to say of Casey Jones with the Celtics in the mid '80s. Make sure number 33 is on the floor and roll the ball out, and that's all. And that's unfair to Casey Jones, but it's true. You could have been a coach most nights, and that Celtics team was going to win. Same with this Nets team. So it's really not about knowledge. I mean, maybe with the Knicks, you have Thibodeau, and setting up the defense and earning his pay that way. But if you can recruit or keep guys, if Jason Tatum loves the next guy and Jason Tatum signs and stays here,
Mhm.
then the guy's done his job just by being there, just by showing up. The guy has done his job. And
Right.
or I'm sorry, I keep screwing up here. Or she, the girl,
Or they.
or they.
Yeah.
We got to check the pronouns.
Right. Before I run, Jerry, what do you think of the Fauci emails? Because I got to go soon. But I hear what you thought about the Fauci emails.
The Fauci emails. I got some thoughts. We're going to play the Nicole Wallace interview with Fauci, which is one of the most embarrassing things you've ever seen. Here's what struck me, Turtle Boy. I got a lot of notes on this, but he was quick to return emails to Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and Morgan Fairchild. Did you even know she was still alive? Someone pointed this out. He wasn't prompt to return emails from certain people like Liz Cheney, but he got right back to Morgan Fairchild. There's never been a bigger egomaniac, a bigger camera hog in history than flip-flop Fauci. He was doing 5-6 interviews a day, and he couldn't get enough of it. His whole life was being in front of the camera and being able to have a conversation with his dear friends, Nicole Wallace and Chuck Todd and Steffi Stephanopoulos. Your thoughts, Turtle Boy?
Oh, my thoughts on, I think it's freaking great that he's unraveling like this. He's finally being exposed. My question is, will they, if it turns out that this guy has been covering up all this stuff, that he actually caused the deaths of lots of people, will he be charged, and will Washington, D.C. rescind the official Dr. Fauci Memorial Day on Christmas Eve? Remember, they made Christmas Eve Dr. Fauci Day.
That's his birthday. He'll be 81 next Christmas Eve.
From what I've seen, this is like criminal, what he's done. Criminal. He should be in jail.
There's no question. When you add it all up, and the answer is of course not. I think that was a rhetorical question. It's like James Comey or William, or Brennan or Clapper. They'll never go to jail. We could watch the video. You can Google it. Lying to Congress under oath, and they won't do any time at all. The guy who put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk is going to do 7 years. Anyway, Fauci will never be charged. He'll never be prosecuted. He has people circling the wagons around him right now at MSNBC and CNN. Did you see the total of mentions? The story was mentioned on Fox like 200 times and in depth. Tucker Carlson had a great monologue about the damage Fauci's done. They mentioned it once on CNN and once on MSNBC yesterday. Once. It was like the biggest story in the world and involves everything over the last year, masks and lockdowns and, lab leaks and pangolins and bats and all that. And they mentioned it once. The cover up is in full high gear right now. They're going to make sure people like you and me don't get to know the full truth about Fauci. If they can do that, they'll do their best. It's going to be a story for the rest of our lives. You realize that, right?
Absolutely. But history, like I said, who writes history? Michael Beschloss. So right. Will any of this even be reported?
John Meacham.
Sometimes I just feel like we're in our own little echo chamber on Tucker, because you turn on MSNBC and you see what's happening in there, and you're like, oh, this is the way the story is going to be covered. CNN's stupid headline that they put out yesterday, it was so absurd that he was like, the emails reveal that he was the one voice of sanity. And like, what?
No,
what?
No, Total Boy, the line is, and I retweeted it. It showed frank honesty from the man.
Jesus Christ.
And I said, frank honesty. What the hell? Frank, not just regular honesty, Turtle Boy. That would be good enough. But it was special honesty. It was really, really good honesty. They called it frank honesty. It's amazing the divide. But here, and we've been saying it, I know you've been saying it, tweeting it for weeks, months, is the biggest story in all our lives. In all our lives, we'll never see a bigger story than this pandemic, and the cause of it. The reason that all happened, what we think is a lab leak, and it makes the most sense. Now people are admitting it. That was covered up by the American media. They lied about it for one reason, is that would make Trump look better, and that might have led to Trump's reelection. So they not only had to lie about it and talk about pangolins and bats, and take your eyes off over here. divert your attention to the pangolins and bats in the wet market for one reason: Trump. That's it. They wanted to defeat the president. They did. It worked. And now we find out that Fauci all along knew that it was a very strong possibility that it leaked from a lab. And here's the takeaway. And Turtle Boy asked me the takeaway that everyone should have. And you can make your own choice, read the stories. We got a lot more emails coming. This is just up till the end of May, right? April, May. So of 2020. I mean, we have another year of Fauci's emails coming out, and God knows how much they'll redact, but there's going to be a lot more love letters from the media. And that's some of the best part. The media, it was a CBS reporter, Kira Phillips, whatever her name is, sending him, telling him how grateful she is for his help and his candor and all this. They're literally writing him notes. That
was their investigative reporter, by the way. That was
she's writing him a note saying how grateful she is and how much she appreciates all he's done. I'm going, you're supposed to be covering the guy, not romancing him.
Did you see the email? I forget who posted. Did you see the email? It was another doctor who was basically like, we've scared the shit out of the entire country. Just protect old people. I forget who wrote it, but that was like innocent. It was a very eloquently written letter, but it was basically just like that people are going to the grocery store. There's no food there. You scared the shit out of them when really all we got to do is protect old people.
And Turtle Boy asked about him going to jail or being charged. He should be. When you consider the damage done by Fauci, and not just Fauci. I mean, I would include big tech and Zuckerberg, and Gates, and Dorsey, and everybody else. Consider the damage done, the number of businesses that went under, the number of kids who were irreparably harmed by being kept out of school when Fauci knew a long time ago that they belonged in school. It was all political, and we know which side he's on. He's a political hack, and he lied. He lied about how much he knew about the origins of it. He lied about masks. I mean, it was, as Rand Paul said, it was all theater. And he never, even on his best days, he never considered these, ancillary victims. Well, he never considered small businesses getting destroyed and people losing their life savings and kids missing out in school and hurting themselves, or drugs or alcohol. There was all this damage that was done.
Do you know how much pressure he was under, Jerry? Did you see that headline on a BuzzFeed? All these emails are dropping, and their headline was, Anthony Fauci's emails reveal the pressure that fell on one man.
On one man.
Yeah.
The pressure. You read these emails and it becomes even more obvious that the guy didn't do any work. All he did was send emails and do TV and do podcasts. I mean, the guy was on Pardon My Take. Pardon my take.
That was a good strategy, though. That got the word out.
Yeah, the word out.
I'm saying it, though. Can you please not attack Barstool?
I'm sorry.
We only got a couple weeks here. All right.
I didn't realize what I was doing there. But the one takeaway, again, and we'll play the Nicole Wallace thing, which is amazing. It's one of the most embarrassing moments for my mainstream media alleged journalists you will ever see. But the one takeaway is, for the last year, or much of the last year, you were not allowed to say something such as, I think it leaked from the Wuhan lab. You weren't allowed to. Big tech would censor it. I heard Ben Shapiro talking about this, and he literally said he didn't want to discuss something such as the Wuhan leak because he knew it would be taken down by YouTube. He knew his show would not appear on YouTube if he went there. So they literally had people watching what they said, even though it was totally legit. In fact, it's probably accurate, but you couldn't say it because if you did, it wouldn't appear on YouTube. It would be taken down by Twitter. It would be taken down by Facebook.
I don't know if we got taken down from the Wuhan. We definitely had the January 6th. Oh, no, we had the election, talking about election fraud. We had a couple videos flagged that I had to kind of fight. And I actually checked.
And when you think about it, even if it wasn't from the Wuhan lab, it's, again, the biggest story in all our lifetimes. It's worth discussing. Could it be from a bat? Could it be from a lab? What, did the United States send, financial support to this lab, which is kind of a big deal, which is why Rand Paul was beaten up on Fauci the last time he went before the Senate. And next time he goes before the Senate, Rand Paul is not going to leave a speck of meat on his bones. He's itching to get at him. Rand Paul was tweeting yesterday, Fauci is a fraud. He is not holding anything back, and he's he's going to be under oath in front of Rand Paul, hopefully in the near future. The idea that he would ever quit is laughable. The guy's too much of an egomaniac. Get fired? Is he going to get fired by Biden? He did Biden's bidding, for a long, long time. Again, the lab leak story was going to make Trump look right. And that wasn't allowed. You couldn't make Trump look right. It's remarkable, and it should be scary to everybody when you think about what the last year was about. If you discussed, and I'm not even talking about, Tucker Carlson, I'm talking about you or me or just some average idiot. If they went on Facebook and said, China owes the world, China released a virus and 3.5 million people are dead, they would censor you. You're right. It's legit. It's a good question, but you couldn't ask it. And Fauci knew this. Fauci knew it was a legit question, if not a fact, that it came from the lab. And he went before the media and lied and talked about bats and said that's most likely. And then you have a member of the World Health Organization emailing him and thanking him for his support of the wet market theory. Think of that. Think of that. He knew it wasn't, or he suspected it wasn't from the wet market. He went before the cameras 1,000 times and started talking about bats and, the pangolins and wet markets. And they thanked him for doing it, and essentially thanked him for participating in a cover-up. That should be his legacy. That should be at least one of the big takeaways. Obviously, I didn't read them all. I've read, a few stories, and I laughed out loud that he got right back to Morgan Fairchild. I mean, he's a star sucker and a star bleeper, and just loves that limelight. And he's got a book somehow in the middle of this pandemic, which killed 3.5 million people. The leading epidemiologist, or the leader of the NIH, the leading voice in the United States, was somehow taking time to write a book and participate in a documentary by Disney. I don't care that if you're liberal, I don't care that you like him and you think he was good and then Trump was wrong and Fauci was right. And you got to look at this stuff and say his priorities were all out of whack and his ego was out of control. But he does not take the chance to bash Trump. I'll give him this with Nicole Wallace, who wanted him. Right now, all MSNBC and CNN want is more people to bash Trump and Trump supporters. That's all they care about. 3.5 million dead. Who cares? Tell us how awful Trump was. And he sits down, does his first interview. I think it might be his only one so far since the email story broke, with Nicole Wallace.
I believe he was on Morning Joe this morning.
Oh, that's right. He did Morning Joe, of course. He knows who his friends are, and Joe and Mika, they're buds. But he sat down with Nicole Wallace yesterday, and she thought the emails made him look good. And I tweeted this. I'm not sure which is more embarrassing, that she thought the emails made him look good, or she didn't know that he knew that they would someday possibly be made public, that they were public domain, in the public domain. I mean, he's a bureaucrat. He's been there 50 years. He knows his government email might someday be made public. So, I mean, I'm not sure. He knows some things will be redacted, but I'm sure he had personal emails and personal communications as well. But he knew this was public, and so he wasn't surprised that the government turned them over to BuzzFeed. Anyway, this is Nicole Wallace somehow spinning this as a positive for her hero, Flip-Flop Fauci.
On this point of your public profile, I read through your emails that were released, and I just want to read one of them. There were a lot of inquiries about your public profile. I mean, this very conversation was much harder to have under the ex-president. And this was your response to one about whether or not you'd have a press conference. You wrote, "Yikes, that would make 4 days in a row without a press conference for me, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and tomorrow." I wonder if you feel like you're still making up some of that lost ground from many months under the last administration of not just no information, but disinformation misinformation being out there, do you still see some hardness among his supporters around the vaccine or around some of these messages you're sharing with us today?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that there are people out there who, for one reason or other, resent me for what I did in the last administration, which was not anything that was anti-Trump at all. It was just trying to get the right information, to try and get the right data. And what they didn't seem to understand, I guess that's understandable that they didn't understand it, is that science is a dynamic process. So something that you know in January, you make a recommendation or a comment about it. But as you get more and more information, the information leads you to change, because that's what science is. It's a self-correcting process. So when you hear someone say something at one point, and then 2 or 3 months later, if you stick with what you said at the original time when you had 1/5 the amount of data that you have now, I think that would be inappropriate. It's appropriate, although sometimes it's difficult for people to understand, how as you learn more and more, you've got to continue to evolve with the data. And that's what I was trying to do, is to always tell the truth on the basis of what the data is. And it was never deliberately something against the president. And in fact, you spoke about my emails. You look at my emails, I never in the email said anything derogatory about President Trump.
Well, the true mark of someone is if they look good, even when their personal emails come out. So you passed the test that very few of us would pass. Dr. Anthony Fauci, thank you for spending.
He passes the test. He passes the test.
What a moron. His personal emails. Does she understand that those aren't his personal emails? Those are his government emails. And he knows.
Why are you having a conversation basically asking him how his feelings are? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is that?
So many specifics. If he were to sit down with Laura Ingraham, who's pretty well versed in this whole subject, I think it would be a whole different deal. It'd be, and he used to a year ago, or a little more than a year ago, he would be on with Laura Ingraham, but then then we realized what a fraud he is, and there's so many contradictions when you think about it. First, as we know, he was anti-mask, said masks don't help, don't get masks. He's been in the business for 50 plus years, a scientist, an epidemiologist, or whatever he is, a doctor. And he thinks masks are unnecessary against the virus one day. And then the next day, you need 2 masks and goggles. He recommended goggles. And then, he recommended, children wear. Then he recommended you wear masks after you've had the virus, or after you've been immunized, if you've been vaccinated. That's when Rand Paul ripped him a new one, because he said this is just theater. And clearly it was. In the emails, it shows that you're not going to get it again, that your immunity built up after you get the virus is enough, and you're not going to get it again. And yet he had the vaccine, and other people had the virus and got better and recovered, and he was still recommending masks. And it was just political. It was theater. Rand Paul was right. But it is, and I'm not even, we know now he's been exposed and he's not going to jail. Turtle Boy is dreaming. He's not going to jail. He's not going to get arrested. Rand Paul will make the case that he lied under oath and multiple times, but it won't matter. I mean, again, he's 80. He's 80. He's going to move on. Maybe Biden will throw him under the bus at some point if he has to, and just say, oh, he's quitting, he's stepping down, and we'll bring in a new head of NIH, and it'll be somebody woke, which is the most important thing. But he has been, the contradictions are just countless in these emails, the contradictions in his public pronouncements from whatever, May and April and May to whatever, 3-4 months later. That's his rationalization that, the data changed, but not every time. No, it didn't always change. You knew early on that you didn't have to wear a mask if you already had the virus. You didn't have to wear a mask, if you had the immunity. So he's a political guy. It's politics. He's not a scientist. And one thing he was doing was protecting the the establishment, protecting the health organizations, the health bureaucracy, the NIH, the CDC, and the WHO. I mean, he was protecting them, and by the way, protecting the Chinese Communist Party. But hopefully, more emails will come out, and we will learn more about him. And Nicole Wallace will fawn over him again and say, "Boy, even after your personal emails came out, you look good. Still, you look so good." Oh, it's just uncomfortable. I don't know if you saw this one, Callahan, but I was talking to Shattuck last night, and they sent me this story. It's amazing. The Journal of American Medical Association, whatever it is, very prominent medical journal. Guys from BU, the editor from BU, a doctor, obviously, and he got fired or forced to resign and apologize because the journal had an article and a podcast where they said there isn't systemic racism in medicine. Doctors aren't systemically racist. That was his opinion. That's what he said. I would agree, although I don't know that many people in the medical community. This guy does. They fired the guy. They deleted the story and the podcast and apologized, and then they got rid of I want to make sure I have his title right. The editor of the
journal for allowing it to get out there.
For allowing it to get out there. The guy got fired. I think was it New York Times who wrote about this? Yeah, New York Times. They fired the editor of the magazine, the journal, who'd been there for 10 years and apparently very well respected, but he allowed a story to run that claimed the medical community does not have a problem with systemic racism. That's it. That's what he did. He allowed it to go. He didn't write it. He didn't say it. He got fired. And by the way, he had to apologize and fall on his sword. His name is Dr. Howard Bauschner, BU guy, BU professor and doctor and well-respected. But he's out because he allowed this thing to run in the magazine that claimed that the medical community does not treat people differently based on race. So they got rid of him. They'll bring in a woke guy. It's not a big national story, but it is so representative, so emblematic of the culture today. And I would say it's perfectly reasonable opinion. I mean, there's me that a doctor would say, no, doctors aren't like that. There are lots of doctors of color. There are lots of liberal doctors. The system is not racist by definition. You could say that. You think a doctor would be able to say it, but no, he's out. He's silenced. You can't see the story. You can't hear
I think we'll all sleep easier at night if, one, as consumers, we realize that every single thing being written or said is opinion nowadays. That's one aspect. And then the two, if you're an employee allowed to give your opinion, you need to understand that you're also acting on behalf of an activist in some capacity, right? Your employer is an activist now. So whatever you write, if it doesn't follow the agenda, you're in jeopardy.
And everything,
whether you like it or not, that's just the world we live in now.
Everything is politicized. Yeah. Everything. You're not allowed to have an unacceptable opinion, or you end up. That's why the transgender girls in sports is such a explosive, divisive topic, is because the side who defend, who want transgender girls, biological boys to dominate girls' sports, they don't want a debate. They don't want a discussion. They don't want books like that book by Abigail Schreier. They don't want those books sold. They want to shut you down, shut you up. There can be no discussion. There can be no debate. I mean, you saw what happened with Caitlyn Jenner. She said at first, no, I don't think that should be the case. It's not fair. Simple, biological. It's just not fair. That's a pretty reasonable opinion. In fact, I would bet 80-something% of the public has that opinion. But she was pressured. She changed her opinion. And you couldn't, write that, tweet that now without wondering, would the censors remove it? Would they take it down? Will they cancel me? Because you can't debate it. You can't discuss it. That's the tactic of some fringe minority groups when it comes to getting their way. It's shut down the opposition. Don't debate them. Don't discuss them. Don't win in the in the arena of ideas. We don't want that. No ideas, no opinions. you shut up and let us do our thing, have our way. And that's not going away, because you have guys like DeSantis and certain other governors who are standing by supporting girls. You have other people, the mainstream media, big tech, who don't care about girls, who, girls are disposable. We need to advance our cause here, and we will accept no dissenting voices. There's going to be more of that. Not less. Unfortunately, big tech won the election in November. Big tech has got more control, more power than ever. And there's going to be more censoring and silencing. And that is the scariest thing. And I mean, again, no story bigger ever in our lives. Nothing bigger than the Wuhan or I don't even know what, the virus, the coronavirus, the COVID-19 and the origins of it. And there has been for much of the last 14, 15 months, only one acceptable opinion, only one acceptable story. And now we find out that the unacceptable story is probably the correct one.
What was your because I know we're wrapping up here. What was your takeaway from yesterday with Cole Buckley there?
I was disappointed. Disappointed that he didn't have his Saturdays for the boys T-shirt when he showed up in court. Cole Buckley's the fan who threw the water bottle at Kyrie, missed him, and then live streamed his own arrest. He's a punk. There's no question. Or, you want to give him a pass because he was drunk, and he was definitely. He's
a kid. He's 20. I don't think you should judge people until they're 35 years old. Personally,
we'll see. He certainly dressed well. He looked fine. He looked like he knew he screwed up when he went to court yesterday and didn't talk. But he'll get sentenced in August. I still say he'll get over sentenced. I still say he'll do jail time.
Rachel Rollins wants to charge him with a race-based crime. She wants to. Will she? Probably not, but she wants to.
The DA in Boston, Rachel Rollins, one of the many radical, like Soros-backed DAs in the country, who bases a lot of her decisions on race, wanted him to charge him, I don't know, with what, a hate crime?
Yeah, basically.
Because Kyrie is black.
Because the NBA is, all primarily black.
Just absurd on so many levels. Again, the person who spit on Trae Young didn't get charged. The person who dropped popcorn on Russell Westbrook didn't get charged with hate crimes or any crimes. This kid is facing a felony assault with a dangerous weapon for throwing a water bottle and missing Kyrie. And he'll still get over sentenced, but that's not till August. Maybe, cooler heads will prevail and he'll get, community service, but I doubt it. He'll, he's going to be a little nervous for the next, whatever it is, 3 months, just wondering what his fate will be, but we'll see. Excuse me. You know what? He'll probably get caught partying again, live streaming some crazy, drunken party and on the beach or something. And Turtle Boy will have all the details, but
that's the end of it, by the way. I don't even think we hear about, the next phase of it in August. I don't even think the news reports on it. It's going to fade away. As long as he's not an idiot, don't go out there and talk. When I reach out to you on Snapchat later today, do not respond to me, Cole, you idiot. But if he doesn't do that, it's just going to go away.
That's a good point. Like, somebody's going to try to get him. They probably already have. Someone's going to try to interview him, whether it's, Barstool. It'll be you. That'll be your first assignment.
Yep.
Try to get Cole Buckley. My advice would be try to get him late in the day on a weekend when he's probably had a couple of Pink Whitneys and might just say, screw it. Let's go. Let's record something and talk, which would be interesting.
That's what I should do. I should pull kind of like a Dershowitz move and act like I'm a Drizzly driver and show up at his house with some booze.
Good idea. Why don't you just lie to him and say, we want to talk to you about something about the environment, because we know he's a big big climate change guy. Say, we'd like to talk to you about the environment and all the sustainable energy you guys use at your frat. Set him up, Colin. It worked so well for you last time, but you only have a few days left with us. So
we need to figure. We were talking before the show. We need to figure out an infrastructure plan here, because all the advertising inquiries that come to my Twitter account or email address, you need to get them now. So what am I giving them? Am I giving them your personal?
Oh, yes. Let me.
You don't respond to direct messages. You block everybody who's on Twitter, basically.
I don't respond to, no, that's Buck Sexton. I'm direct messaging Buck Sexton, trying to get him to join. He's been on this podcast. I've been on his show a few times, and now I guess he's too big. He got Rush Limbaugh's old gig, and he's not returning my DMs. But
yeah, he's big time now. And just coincidentally, we buried the shit out of him the other day, so that might
you
not
did.
Help.
I didn't. You did.
Okay.
All right. Here is the. I'll tweet this out too, or you will. The email you can reach out to if you'd like to advertise on this podcast. It is very catchy. Again, Gerry Callahan podcast at gmail.com. Just
boom.
My name, Gerry Callahan podcast at gmail.com. Reach out if you'd like to advertise. And we'll remind you that advertising on podcasts is much more effective than radio. People listen to them more. We do the personal read, and we'll do it right. So email us. Also,
Just don't bother me. Just don't bother me. You're dead to me as of June 18th. I'll never talk to you again, so that's fine.
June 18th? Oh, wow, you're still here. When is the day your field trip down to Cully Heaven in New York?
It's kind of fluctuating. It's up in the air, but right now it's like June 23rd or something like that. But it's gonna
come home. You're gonna come home with some swag, some Spit and Chickless, t-shirts and hats and keychains. And
can you just find a producer to make my life easier? For God's sake, you're the one who was kissing my ass last week that I've never missed a day. So why don't you help me and just find a freaking producer?
Yeah, you haven't missed a day. I didn't say you did a good job when you
showed
up.
I'm reliable.
Showed up.
Yeah,
and I think you're going to miss me because your next boss is not going to be so supportive. But yeah, you know what? You can email it. You can email that address if you want to put your name in the mix for the next producer. I've already interviewed a few people. Some are more impressive than others. I told you one guy I interviewed. I talked to him, 15, 20 minutes. It was a good conversation. Seemed like a good kid. And then he said, I got a question for you. I said, okay, what? He goes, how do I find this podcast? I go, what? I said, okay, we're done here. I'm worried about all the
How old was this kid? How old?
He was 25, maybe 26. And it seemed like, again, a good kid, a hard worker, but I need someone more technically adept than I am, which is not hard to be. But
you got to think outside the box too. That person might be like 10 steps ahead of the podcasting industry. He might be like, oh, I'm way past that. I know you're on Apple. I know you're on Spotify. I'm on the next thing that's going to shoot you to the moon. Don't overlook that aspect.
I don't think it was that kind of thing, but those people are out there. God knows, you're a total dope, but you're pretty good technically, amazingly good technically. Guy can't write a simple declarative sentence for a tweet, but he can handle any technical difficulty, and how to get in the computer and fix this, get rid of that. I mean, you're stunningly good technically for a moron, I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a compliment. That is high praise because, I mean, as you know, to be a producer in radio or podcast, you have to be kind of a dope, but you have to be technically capable, and I need someone like that. So you can email that same address, Gerry Callahan podcast at Gmail, if you would like to put your name in the mix. But
and I can tell you too, because a lot of people have reached out to me because of it. I have no say in this process. What Gerry literally doesn't, he will not take any of my advice. I've recommended 3 people.
Not true.
He refuses to.
You just asked me about someone before we started recording, and I said he hasn't reached out to me. So how much does he want? He's waiting for me to call. No, he can call me, email me. You gave him all my contacts.
Yes.
He can get back to me. If he doesn't, I'll just assume that he's not really interested. That's the way I look at it. I got another goal. I didn't know you were here that long. We got how many more days? What is today? So you got like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This is easy.
But I would find the dude so we can like transition, right? There's a
I want to find the dude.
I
want to find the dude and have him sit in and watch and learn from you.
Yep.
But this, I want to ask people to rate and review. We do that on Thursdays. Go to Apple, give us a 5-star review if you could, or as good a rating as you want. But reviews, we hit a wall in reviews. We're almost at 4,000. I want to get to 4,000 before Cully leaves for Cully Heaven and goes over to Barstool, never to be heard from again. But get in there and give us a decent review, a good rating on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate it. That's important, and again, if you want to advertise, if you want to work here, you can reach out to us at Gerry Callahan podcast at gmail.com. All right. Callahan, anything else? That's
basically it. That's the story those are all the stories for the day. We'll see the fallout from the Celtics, moves. We'll see if anything goes on the coaching front soon. They want to move quick. I don't know.
I'm gonna put $2 on the white guy at 1,000,000 to 1.
I feel like they're trying to push for Sam Cassell really hard. I don't know. Even like Kendrick Perkins was out there pushing for it yesterday. So
I saw Kendrick Perkins on the list, but he's absolutely fits that mold of guys that players really respect.
Perkins on the list of head coaches.
Yes, he's on this list of odds. I mean, he's a long shot.
No, he's a stud right now. I mean, I'm not an NBA guy, but
this has him at 10. I'm sorry, at the Yahoo. This is Points Bet Sportsbook. Kendrick Perkins is 10,000 to 1, so he's not really on the list. Rick Pitino is 4,000 to 1.
Wow.
Paul Pierce 1,400 to 1. He'd be well respected. Jeff Van Gundy's 1,300 to 1. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy, I don't even know if he'd be interested, but he doesn't belong on this list. This list, you got to be woke, as Stephen A. made clear. You got to be woke, and he probably will be. And we'll
find out that list. Who put together that list that Kendrick Perkins is on? I haven't even seen that rumor once.
10,000 to 1. He's not really on it, but his name is mentioned because that's the kind of guy we're talking about. A guy who's respected by everybody, who played in the league and just walks in a room and they listen to what he says and they look up to him and they want to play hard for him. That's why he fits that mold. I think you're right. He's I mean,
he's great on TV right now. He's great on ESPN. He's
on local TV. Looks like he's lying on a couch when he does, or lying on a. Looks like he's lying in a casket, doesn't it? He's got this weird background, and he just sits there and he speaks from the heart. He doesn't, he's not, doesn't sound that, polished, which is good. He sounds like a real person. He speaks for his mind. He's really good. I can't believe I'm saying that because when he was playing, I don't think he had a lot to say, a lot of insight. But as a analyst, a broadcaster, he's excellent. And you're right. He's happy where he is. He's making a good living. He's doing a good job. He's probably not looking to get into coaching, which is
Pierce is unemployed. Pierce is unemployed right now.
Pierce is unemployed, but
seems a little too focused on weed though, like really into the
strippers.
Weed.
And Pierce has 100 million in the bank. You got to have a guy who's hungry, and I don't think he's, even though most former players are set financially, like Steve Nash and Jason Kidd, but you want a guy who's hungry, who wants to work every day, and I don't think Paul Pierce is that guy. But that is enough NBA analysis from a couple of experts for now. We'll see which way the Celtics go, and we will have Callahan around for 2 more weeks. I didn't realize it was that long. I don't know. Your new boss is a little nervous about bringing you in. He's a little nervous. Yeah,
man, it's tough.
I said you'll be great. He will run through walls for you.
I couldn't sign that. I couldn't sign and fill out all my HR paperwork fast enough, so it sucks for him.
Wow, it's all done.
It's all done. Donezo.
What is it? A long-term contract?
5 years. 5 years. Wow. I think it's 3. They lock me up for a couple extra ones.
5 years, and I give it 4 months. But maybe you can get a big payout in the end. At least get some Spit and Chicklets garb, which is the most important thing. But we will leave it there. Thanks to Turtle Boy, and thanks to DCU, Shea Concrete and Allied Paving. Thanks to everybody for watching and on YouTube and commenting on YouTube and for listening. And again, go to Apple, give us a rating, give us a review. We got to get that up to 4,000 before Cully bails on us. That is it. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you again soon.